You're listening to Just a Dude podcast with your host, Nathan. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Let's roll. Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to Just a Dude in the News, where we keep it real and break down the biggest stories of the week. I'm your host, Nathan, just a dude trying to make sense of the world one headline at a time. Today, we're diving into the top 10 news stories from the United States between May 23rd and May 30th of 2025. So grab a drink, get comfy, and let's unpack what's been going down. No drama, no spin, just the facts with a chill vibe. Here we go. All right, let's start with a heavy one out of San Diego. On May 22nd, 2025, a small plane crashed, and sadly, all 6 people on board lost their lives. The plane was owned by someone connected to Sound Talent Group, a company in the music industry, and 3 of the victims were employees there. It's a tragic story that hit the community hard. Reports say the crash happened shortly after takeoff, and emergency crews were on the scene quick, but there was no opportunity to save the passengers. The plane's owner reportedly had a pilot's license, but it's not clear yet who was flying. Investigators are digging into what caused the crash, looking at everything from mechanical issues to human error. The National Transportation Safety Board is leading the effort, and they're keeping things tight-lipped while they piece it together. This kind of accident always shakes people up, especially in a tightly knit industry like the music industry. Sound Talent Group put out a statement expressing their grief and asking for privacy as they support the families. Social media was flooded with tributes, with folks sharing memories of the victims and their contributions to the scene. It's a reminder of how fast things can change. For now, the focus is on supporting the loved ones left behind and figuring out what went wrong to prevent this from happening again. The investigation could take months, but locals in San Diego are already coming together, holding vigils and showing love for those affected. We'll keep an eye on this one as more details come out. Sticking with San Diego for a sec, another aviation story grabbed headlines on May 20th, 2025. Hawaiian Airlines Flight 15 had to be evacuated at San Diego International Airport after some kind of issue on board. The good news, all 283 passengers and 10 crew members got out safe and sound. No injuries, no chaos, just a smooth evacuation. Details are still a bit murky, but it sounds like a potential mechanical or safety concern triggered the call to clear the plane. Airport operations were back to normal pretty quick, which is a testament to the crews handling things like pros. Passengers were rerouted or put on later flights, and Hawaiian Airlines is working with authorities to sort out what happened. This kind of thing can freak people out, especially if you're sitting on a plane ready to jet off to Hawaii. Social posts from passengers described a tense but orderly scene, with flight attendants keeping everyone calm. Big props to them for that. It's the kind of story that makes you appreciate the safety protocols we've got in place. The investigation is ongoing, and we don't have the full picture yet. Could be a minor glitch or something bigger, but either way, everyone walking away unharmed is what matters most. If you're flying soon, maybe double-check your travel playlist to stay chill. We'll update you when there's more to share. All right, let's lighten things up with some sports. The NBA playoffs in 2025 are in full swing, and by May 29th, we were deep into the conference finals. One of the big matchups was the Indiana Pacers versus the New York Knicks, with Game 5 going down on May 29th in New York. The series was a nail-biter with fans glued to their screens. Tyrese Halliburton was a standout for the Pacers, dropping a triple-double in Game 4 to keep the hopes alive. The Knicks, meanwhile, were fighting hard to defend their home court. Game 6 and 7 were scheduled for May 31st and June 2nd, setting the stage for some serious drama. The winner of the series was looking at a shot in the NBA Finals, which tip off on June 5th. What's cool about this year's playoffs is how players like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Alex Caruso were stepping up, making big plays and keeping the energy high. Fans on social media were hyping up every clutch shot and debating who's got the edge in the finals. It's that time of year when basketball takes over and you can feel the excitement everywhere. Whether you're rooting for the Pacers, Knicks, or another team still in the mix, the playoffs are delivering. Check out ESPN for the full schedule and highlights if you're trying to keep up. Nothing like some hoops to bring people together, right? Switching gears to the economy, consumer confidence in the U.S. got a big boost in May 2025, according to a survey released on May 27. People were feeling pretty good about the future, and a lot of it had to do with optimism around trade deals, especially between the U.S. and China. It's not often you hear folks getting hyped about trade talks, but here we are. The survey showed people were more hopeful about jobs and economic growth, which is a vibe we could all use. This came after some positive signals in negotiations that could ease tensions and keep goods flowing. When consumers feel confident, they're more likely to spend, which keeps the economy humming. It's like a big old cycle of good feelings. Now, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Some analysts pointed out that global markets are still jittery, and not everyone's convinced the good times will last. But for the average person, this was a moment to breathe a little easier. You could see it in the posts online with folks talking about feeling more secure about their finances. The key takeaway? People are betting on stability, at least for now. Whether that holds up depends on how things shake out globally, but for the week of May 23rd, it was a nice change of pace. Keep an eye on the news for more on this if you're into the economic stuff. Next up, a story that's got some folks scratching their heads. On May 28, 2025, U.S. announced a temporary halt on scheduling new student visa appointments. This move came as part of a broader push on immigration policy, and it's got international students and universities paying close attention. The pause affects new applications, but existing appointments are still moving forward from what we know. The reasoning behind it seems tied to administrative changes, though details are light. Some universities, like Harvard, were mentioned in reports, with students on campus wondering how this might impact their plans. It's a big deal for international students who rely on these visas to study here. Online, you've got a mix of reactions. Some folks are frustrated, saying it could disrupt academic programs, while others are waiting to see how long the pause lasts. Universities are likely feeling the heat too, since international students bring a lot to the table culturally and economically. No word yet on when things might open back up. For now, it's a waiting game. If you're an international student or know someone who is, it might be worth checking with your school's international office for updates. Reuters has been covering this one, so you can dig in there for more details. Switching back to the economy for a minute, on May 27, 2025, the S&P 500 shot up 2% after an announcement that a 50% tariff on EU goods was being paused. This was a big relief for markets, which had been on edge about trade tensions. Stocks were climbing and investors were feeling a little less stressed. The pause came after some back and forth about trade policies, with markets reacting to every headline. When the decision to hold off on the tariffs dropped, it was like a collective sigh of relief. Companies that rely on trade with Europe saw their stocks pop, and the ripple effect was felt across the board. Social media was buzzing with investors and analysts breaking down what this means for the future. Some were optimistic, saying it could pave the way for smoother trade talks, while others cautioned that it's just a temporary breather. Either way, it was a good day for the markets, and that's something to celebrate. If you're into stocks or just curious about how this stuff affects your wallet, CBS News has a solid rundown on this story. It's a reminder of how connected the global economy is, for better or worse. All right, folks, this is a tough one that hits close to home for me. On May 26, 2025, a 13-year-old boy named Matthew Schultz tragically lost his life during the Memorial Day parade in Greene, Ohio. He was riding on a trailer float when he fell off and was struck by the trailer's tires. It's a heartbreaking story that turned a day of celebration and remembrance into one of mourning for the community. Matthew was a 7th grader at North Canton City Schools, described by his family as a kind and caring kid who loved Star Wars and fruit snacks. He was on an Air Ninja gym float with 6 other kids aged 7 to 13 when the accident happened around 11:23 a.m. The trailer, pulled by an F-150 going less than 5 miles an hour, was near the end of the parade route when Matthew fell from the front and was critically injured. Greene Fire Department, who were right behind the float, rushed him to Akron Children's Hospital, but sadly, he was pronounced dead at 12:04 p.m. The Summit County Sheriff's Office is investigating with the help from the Summit Metro Crash Team, calling it a tragic accident. The community's been hit hard, with the parade ending early and folks coming together to support Matthew's family. Mayor Rocco Yergin said the city's focused on helping the families, and North Canton schools are offering counseling to students and staff. Social media has been full of tributes, with people sharing how Matthew's bright spirit touched so many lives. The Schultz family shared a statement through a friend, thanking the community for their overwhelming support, from donations to heartfelt messages. They're asking for sensitivity as they grieve, and it's clear Greene and North Canton are rallying around them. This is one of those stories that reminds us how fragile life can be. If you're in the area, keep Matthew's family in your thoughts and prayers, and maybe check out the GoFundMe set up to help them through this. The link for that GoFundMe will be in the show notes. All right, let's dive into a story that's got a lot of folks talking. The Democratic Party's approval rating is scraping historic lows, with polls from late May 2025 showing it hovering around 27 to 29% approval. A big piece of this is the party's struggle to connect with male voters, who are giving them just a 22% approval rating in some surveys. It's a rough spot for the party as they try to regroup after a tough 2024 election cycle. An NBC News poll from May 27, 2025, pegged the party's favorability at only 27%, the lowest since they started tracking in 1990. A CNN poll around the same time wasn't much better, showing only a 29% approval rating. What's standing out is that only 30% of men, even among Democrat-leaning voters, think the party's leadership is on the right track. Social media has been buzzing with frustration, with some posts pointing out that the party's messaging feels out of touch with guys' concerns like jobs and economic pressures. The disconnect seems to stem from a mix of things. Some analysts say the party's focus on certain social issues hasn't resonated with working-class men, who feel overlooked. There's also talk about a $20 million plan called Speaking with American Men to rethink how the party talks to guys, like dropping a preachy tone and advertising more on platforms like video games. But not everyone's sold on it. Some former campaign staffers called it out of touch, saying leaders should just go meet regular people instead of strategizing in boardrooms. I agree with that. For now, the party's got work to do to rebuild trust, especially with the 2026 midterms on the horizon. Polls shows folks want Democrats to take a stronger stand on key issues, but there's no clear agreement on what that looks like. If you're curious about the numbers, Fox News and NBC have been digging into this one. It's a big moment for the party to figure out how to bridge the gap with half the population. Tech fans, this one's for you. On May 23, 2025, a threat of a 25% tariff on smartphones not made in the U.S. sent ripples through the tech world. Apple and Samsung were in the spotlight, with Apple's stock taking a hit, losing about $70 billion in value. The push was to get these companies to manufacture more in the U.S., but it's not a simple switch. Analysts pointed out that moving production stateside could take years, maybe 5 to 10, because of how complex smartphone supply chains are. Factories in place like India and China handle a ton of the work, and rebuilding that infrastructure isn't quick. The announcement had markets rattled, with investors wondering what's next. Online, tech enthusiasts were debating the impact. Some folks think it could lead to more U.S. jobs, while others worry about higher phone prices. Either way, it's a big shakeup from an industry that's a huge part of the daily life. The Guardian and CNBC have been covering the details if you want to dive in deeper. For now, nothing's set in stone, but it's got people talking about where their gadgets come from. If you're due for a phone upgrade, it might be worth keeping an eye on this one. Wrapping things up this week, we've got a story about some diplomatic moves. On May 23, 2025, the U.S. and Iran wrapped up their 5th round of nuclear talks in Rome, and both sides were sounding cautiously optimistic. Iran's foreign minister called it one of the most professional rounds yet, which is a big deal after years of tension. The talks are aimed at sorting out Iran's nuclear program, a topic that's been a headache for decades. No major breakthroughs were announced, but the fact that both sides are still at the table is a huge step forward. The meetings happened at the Omani embassy, with Oman playing a neutral host. Social media had a mix of reactions, with some hopeful for de-escalations and others skeptical about long-term results. It's a complex issue, and most folks just want to see stability. Reuters and Al Jazeera have solid coverage if you're curious about the nitty-gritty. For now, it's progress, not perfection. These talks could shape how things play out globally, so it's worth keeping an eye on. And with that, we're wrapping up the top 10 for this week. All right, that's a wrap for this episode of Just a Dude in the News on Just a Dude Podcast. We've covered a lot, from tragic losses to playoff dunks to party struggles, all in the week of May 23rd to the 30th. Thanks for chilling with me, Nathan, as we sorted through the headlines. If you like the vibe, drop us a review or share the pod with a friend. Until next time, stay curious, stay cool, and I'll catch you on the next episode.